Hello everybody, this is ManuS and welcome to another Legends of Runeterra deck tech. That's right, it's time to fire up the deck techs again. The new set is out. I got to play a bunch. I haven't climbed that much yet because I have been experimenting a lot, and a lot of that experimenting has gone so I'm still like in the middle of Platinum. But the one deck that I want to talk to you about today I played quite a bunch of and had a lot of success. The other experiments just kind of like mitigated a lot of the progress that deck generated for me, and that is Nightfall Aggro. It's one of the more obvious and strong decks to come out of the new set, one of the potential tier 1 decks going forward and one of the top aggro decks. So that already gotten a bunch of people to master, and yeah, I put some thought into it and also tested the deck a bunch to bring you what I think is the optimal list, and also gonna break down why I think that way and the card choices and alternatives. And yeah, also my current record with the deck so far on ladder is 31-15 over 46 games. So with the 4 games from the deck tech, that will make for a total of 50 games and a pretty nice representative sort of record to get a decent first idea. All right, so you know the drill. Before we dive into the deck tech, please hit the subscribe button down below. If you haven't yet, only takes a couple seconds and really helps the channel out. And let me briefly tell you about today's sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by NordVPN, one of the leading virtual private network providers out there. A virtual private network keeps your data secure and yourself anonymous while using the internet. NordVPN comes with super fast servers, allows you to unlock your favorite entertainment websites like Netflix. They provide a 30-day money-back guarantee. They also have an included cybersecurity suite, which acts as an ad blocker to boot. They don't lock any of your data, provide a 24/7 customer support, and you can use it on up to 6 simultaneous connections, so one account covers most or all of your electronic devices. And most importantly, they don't have any bandwidth limit, so you can use it non-stop without it getting throttled, which is particularly important for heavy users like us. It also won multiple awards and comes highly recommended by top technology experts. So if you're still surfing online without a VPN, now is the time to change that. Get NordVPN now, 70% off for a 3-year plan, including 1 month extra for free using the code ManuS or the personalized link in the description down below. And now on to today's content. All right, now that we got that out of the way, let's take a look at the deck and talk about the card choices. So this deck is a super Nightfall heavy aggressive deck built around Diana and Nocturne, and your plan is basically to curve out very efficiently and beat your opponent down, and the deck has a lot of really great tools for this. So first off, let's talk about the 1-drops. 3 Lunari Duskbringer, not much to say here. This card is exceptional. It's really good at enabling your Nightfall. Sometimes it gives you a free card to discard to Sketcher, and it's just overall very solid. Like, as good as a 1-cost 2/1 with upside in the game can usually be. It's also very helpful for the deck, and one of the less obvious things that it can actually do is it allows you to turn 3 Nocturne. Like if you're on odd, you can play turn 1 Duskbringer, turn 2 play a 1-drop or nothing, and turn 3 you then can turn 1 spell mana with the Dusk Petal Dust into a unit mana by making Nocturne cost 3 and slam Nocturne for 3 mana, which is pretty big and super powerful. So want to keep that option in mind. Then we have Solari Soldier. Not much to say here. It doesn't have any particular synergy with the deck. It's just a very good 1-drop and a very good aggressive 1-drop at that. It is a great way to open your turns, since Daybreak kind of aligns well with Nightfall, obviously, because you want to play something before your Nightfall cards, and 1-drops are great for that, and Daybreak 1-drops kind of don't even have to suffer any issues. So you can just play Solari Soldier into a Nightfall card, and otherwise it's just a very solid unit. Like turn 1 is really good. So yeah, just a good 1-drop, and we need 1-drops because we're an aggro deck and we're also a Nightfall deck, so we want to multi-spell a lot. Then we have Stygian Onlooker, just another 1-cost 2/1 with upside. It's not that great on turn 1, obviously, because it's just a vanilla 1-cost 2/1, but there's one minor upside over a regular 1-cost 2/1 on turn 1. It starts progressing your Nocturne level up, because it is a Nightfall unit even if you play it without Nightfall. So every time it attacks, it gets you closer to your Nocturne level up, which can matter. And this is mostly played in later turns, like for example, you have a multi 1-drop turn and you go turn on even, so you go turn 1, 1-drop, turn 2, say Solari Soldier into Stygian Onlooker and slap them for a lot. And it's obviously a nice way to like sort of fill out your curve later, creating a 4-cost, hard to block attacker for 1 mana in the mid game is super strong and swingy. So another thing to keep in mind. And then I'm currently running 2 Spacey Sketchers. I started with 3, but then eventually decided to cut that third for a third Fading Memories, simply because Fading Memories allows for more, say, 1-drop into Nightfall 2-drop, like Shadestalker or Diana, especially on even, obviously. While Sketcher is still ultimately a 1-cost 1/1 with upside. So while the things you can get are pretty powerful potentially, especially the 0-cost 2/1 Challenger and the 3-cost 3/3 Elusive are very good, but also the 0-cost cost reduction burst spell are great Nightfall enablers, and also allows you to do stuff like turn 2 Crescent Guardian. Like there's sometimes a curve where you go turn 1 Sketcher, get the cost reduction spell, and then turn 2 Crescent Guardian as a 5/3 and attack. If your opponent doesn't have a unit that can trade with it, that's super powerful. Also obviously allows for turn 3 Nocturne, the same way that Duskbringer does, except you don't need to even float mana. So you can fully go 1-drop, 2-drop Nocturne, for example. Also, Spacey Sketcher lets you discard ephemeral units that you don't want to use. It lets you discard Dusk Petal Dust that you don't need, or just clunky cards, like for example, having your 6-drop in your opening hand, stuff like that, and turns it into a better unit. And it has a bunch of pretty good outcomes. The spells aren't that great, except for the 0-cost one, but they're still situational useful. Like I had a game earlier where I got a 1-mana silence a follower when my opponent just dropped the Guardian, so I could just silence the Guardian and then attack into the opponent and not be bothered by the Guardian that might have otherwise made that game difficult. Same with like stun 2 units, for example. So yeah, still a very solid card. I like having more than 9 1-drops because of Nightfall, and this is pretty good at managing your Nightfall. Like you can go 1-drop into 2-drop into 1-drop plus Nightfall 2 mana play and stuff like that. Just has been overall pretty solid. And having access to additional challengers and additional elusives has also been pretty good, and it's just pretty flexible. I've been pretty happy with those. Other lists run Lunari Priestess instead, and I really don't want more than 6 3-drops in my deck, especially when my 3-drops are already all Nightfall, so it's not like that I curve super well. So a lot of the time you want to go 1-cost plus 2-cost spell on 3, for example, and they are having more 1-cost cards like Spacey Sketcher makes a lot of sense, and 3-cost 2/1s without any evasion or anything, and that don't even play on turn 3 very well, are not exactly like the idea of what I want in an aggro deck. So I'm not a big fan of Lunari Priestess and have been liking Sketcher quite a bunch. I think I started with 9 1-drops and felt like the deck was still a bit wonky in terms of how it curved and how it used its mana and how reliably it sequenced it Nightfall with some draws, and Sketcher really fixed that because it sometimes enables like 2 Nightfalls, like one turn with Sketcher and the next turn with the card you get from Sketcher, depending on what you get and what you need to get. So it just made the deck like flow better and makes it more smooth and consistent, while Lunari Priestess is just kind of clunky. Sure, it can sometimes give you the random like high cost celestial units that can randomly win you games that you otherwise can't, but in most other scenarios you just have a clunky 3-cost unit that isn't very good, and it makes your deck less smooth and less consistent. And 1-drops are so important, so not having a 1-drop in your opening hand is going to be super devastating. So I still had plenty of games where I had like no 1-drop in my opening hand, redraw all, and including the turn 1 draw step, didn't find a 1-drop, and that happens a fair bunch, and it's a death sentence to the deck potentially. So you really don't want to like mess with that. I think that's one of the like main differences of my list to like the other list by Nick that made Master with it, that some people have been copying. But otherwise, we basically agree on the entire deck at this point. I think he also has a third Lunari Priestess instead of a second Cygnus, but I'll get into that in a moment. Let's talk about the other units. Diana is extremely good. She plays way better than I thought she would. She's not just fine or solid or fairly good. She's actually great. Like she's awesome. Just basically killing a unit for free with your 2-drop and then having a good unit that scales super well once she levels and completely controls the board is just awesome. She's a really good champion. Then we have Lunari Shadestalker, our other 2-drop. Yeah, she's a 2-cost, 2/3 elusive. Deck's pretty good at enabling her. Elusive allows the deck to sort of finish off some games that could otherwise be stalled out. So that's just nice to have. And a 2-cost, 2/3 is already a decent body, so sometimes in rare occasions you can even play her as a 2-cost, 2/3 sometimes if you need to. It's not going to be horrible. And with Nightfall, she's going to be great. Then we have Crescent Guardian, just an amazing 3-drop. 3-cost, 4/3 overwhelms are decent. 3-cost, 5/3 overwhelms are amazing, especially if you have ways to protect them with like Parry Cascade or Challenge, or simply just giving it elusive with Sickness later. Just an exceptionally good aggressive unit for the deck. Then we have Doombeast. That's one of the cards that I definitely underrated initially. I felt like it's going to be too weak in an aggressive deck compared to the alternatives, because the 3-cost 3/2 is not great, and sure, draining 2 is nice, but if your deck is more of a like perf beatdown aggro type deck, the drain 2 is not going to do that much. It seems more like it would be a great unit in a burn deck, but it even plays pretty well in this deck. I think the main reason why this card is a lot better than I thought, or like the 2 main reasons, is first of all, it's the other good Nightfall 3-drop, and the deck really wants as many Nightfall units as possible to make Diana level as fast as possible and also help Nocturne be better. The other factor is Doombeast is really good with Stalking Shadows. Like without Stalking Shadows, the deck basically would just have like 3 drain 2 units in a deck that is just all beatdown, where usually if you don't get your opponent with beatdown, Doombeast is not gonna make the difference. But first of all, we have some chip damage with elusives from Shadestalker and Cygnus that help make the drain 2 from Doombeast matter more. And then we have, like I said, Stalking Shadows, where you can just double up on Doombeast and suddenly you have like a decimate level effect, which is a lot more impactful. And you can also get backdoor Doombeasts from Unspeakable Horror as well. So suddenly you have games where you have like 4 or 5 Doombeasts, so you suddenly drain your opponent for 8 to 10, and that's a super impactful number. So this card is quite a bit better than I thought. My initial version had no Doombeast, only had Crescent Guardian and a lower curve, but that was wrong and I needed more Nightfall cards, so I added Doombeast, and so has everyone else. Nothing new by now, just wanted to point out that that is a card that I underrated and that turned out to play better and fit better in the decks once you played it than it seemed like on paper in the abstract. But that's what I keep saying a lot when I review cards. A lot of the time it looks a certain way, but you also have to keep in mind that you need to play the cards, you need to play the deck, you need to see what the deficits of the deck are, and suddenly a Doombeast becomes much better because of interactions that you didn't see before, like with Stalking Shadows, and also because suddenly you realize you need more Nightfall than you had without Doombeast, and then Doombeast makes it in the deck even though you thought it wouldn't. Then we have Nocturne. Nocturne is just an amazing champion, really powerful. The permanent vulnerable is great. The skitter ability on top of it is just amazing. He usually levels up a lot of the time on his first attack, meaning your entire board has Fearsome. Together with his -1/-0 that turn means most of your board can't be blocked, which is super nasty, and then you can even like use your worst unit to pull their biggest unit. That often is the only blocker and the opponent just dies. And yeah, just a great champion. And then we have Cygnus. That's a card that a lot of people apparently thought was bad when it got spoiled before it came out, and I didn't hate the card at all. As you can remember from my review, I think it's a very solid like curve topper finisher if you can support the Nightfall, and the Nightfall deck of course naturally can. And another card that Dusk Petal Dust matters for, you can sometimes turn 5 Sickness thanks to Dusk Petal Dust if that wins you the game on turn 5, for example. Or it gets you an attack in that we otherwise wouldn't have a good attack and stuff like that. So keep that in mind. So I've been pretty happy with 2 Sickness, especially with Spacey Stalkers. You can just discard the Sickness if you have it in your hand early and don't need it, and otherwise it's just a nice thing to be able to draw into. So yeah, card is very solid role player, another way to sort of deal the last X amount of damage that you need to, depending on what your board looks like. Just pretty solid and allows you to beat those like very unit heavy board mid-range decks that eventually lock you out of combat because their board is better than yours, so you don't have good attacks anymore to get damage in. And then the spells. We have 3 Fading Memories. I started with 2 because the card is a bit wonky, but ultimately the 1 cost into Nightfall 2-drop, especially on even attack, is just pretty good. Sometimes you get random good value stuff from the opponent, and with Doom Beast, Fading Memories also got a bit better because obviously copying Doom Beast gives you even more drain, so suddenly with Stalking Shadows and Fading Memories, you have a lot of Doom Beast triggers happening that can easily drain the opponent for a lot. And it's just the great Nightfall enabler to play stuff on curve. Then we have Parry Cascade. Can't stress how great this card is. This card is so good, it's basically showing up in any deck, even control decks playing this card. I think some of the control decks might be overdoing it a bit because it's a bit awkward, and you don't have that many units, and if they open an attack and you need to use it, it's not that great and so on. But all in all, this card is insane and one of the premium cards out of the set that you will see in almost every Targon deck. Stalking Shadows is a card that I initially wasn't sure if I would want to play it in the deck, because I was trying to go for maximum speed, explosiveness, but that didn't turn out that well. And like I said, Stalking Shadows, great value, great with Doom Beast, great at enabling Nightfall at burst speed, just an overall very good card, and another premium card that is I thought the card was good, but I think the card's even better than I thought it was when I first saw it, and it's going to be a staple that will show up in a lot of unit-heavy Shadow Isles decks going forward, before they even consider putting Glimpse in the deck, I think. And then we have Unspeakable Horror. The card is as good as advertised, really. It's, in this deck specifically, usually a better Vile Feast. The fact that you can ping face also matters, given that we have a lot of Doom Beast triggers, so that's another half Doom Beast trigger effectively. And it can also get us more Doom Beasts. It can also get us random Nightfall cards like the 5-drop when it's that are sometimes randomly good, even though you might not want to put it in your deck. It can get us Sickness and stuff like that. It's just a great card, really. And it also is a Nightfall trigger for Diana. That also gets us more Nightfall triggers for Diana and potential Nightfall units for Nocturne. So yeah, that's the deck. Like I said, some people are basically running a Priestess at this point, and otherwise the archetype is mostly figured out. Gift Giver is an interesting alternative to Sketcher, but I've been pretty happy with Sketcher and the impact of the cards you get. But Gift Giver is a close second because it's also pretty solid, and the gems on Shadestalker or Diana can be really nice. The fact that it's a 1/2 makes it a bit better, and it generates a free card while Sketcher just cycles a card. And doesn't always get you a good cheap card for Nightfall enabling, while Gift Giver always gives you a 1-cost burst spell that lets you Nightfall. Sapling Toss was something that I initially had and considered. Problem is, it's a bit awkward. It only works on your off turns because you obviously want to get the sapling on your attack token turns. And other cards just kind of turned out better, so it kind of fell by the wayside. Shroud is probably about as useless and bad as I thought it would be because it's just not worth the investment of a card, and is in fact not the next warning shot that somehow makes it worth it, because the difference between 0 and 1 to enable stuff is huge, especially for curving out, and the effect is not notably more impactful than Warning Shots effect while casting, 1 mana when the other one casts no mana is a big deal. And yeah, I mean, I think that's really all there is to talk about in the deck. I initially had some Bastion, but the deck plays more explosive and fast than Bastion, so you don't really want the clunky Bastion, and almost all your stuff is cheap and replaceable, so you also don't need to protect it. And the few things you want to protect, mainly Nocturne, you usually can't protect because having 3 mana and playing Nocturne and activating Nightfall the same turn is usually not going to pan out. So yeah, I don't think there's... Alright, there's a version that runs Mentor, but I really don't like that. I don't want, like I said, I don't want 9 3-drops. And while the card is good, it's not really what this deck wants, and I wouldn't recommend it. And that version also ran like 3 Atrocity, and I have no idea why. The biggest unit in the deck is like a leveled Nocturne. Sure, it has some synergy with Mentor because of its buff and this thing, but it even ran like 3 freaking Atrocity, which is 1 more than even like Endure runs. So yeah, that list wasn't very sound, and I don't think it's gonna catch on much. So would not recommend. I think Nick and I are on the right track, and there are just like some minor disagreements on the list here between him and me, and that's about the archetype figured out, I think. Alright, that's it for the deck, and if you have any more questions, let me know in the comments down below. You know the drill. Happy to answer any questions, and now we're just gonna jump into some ranked, currently Platinum 2, and we'll do hopefully some climbing and winning with the deck. And first and foremost, gonna show you how to pilot it, how to sequence and what to pay attention to. And yeah, so see you in a moment with the first game. Stay tuned.